Okay, so we're now live. This is Jen the tutor, and I am here, I would say, with the college that or university rather, when everybody gets in, I'm like, I wish I could go. Like, it's such a good experience, and I love a lot of colleges, but like, I'm going to say, y'all are one of my favorites. So I'm here with University of Richmond today, and I'm about to introduce everybody else, but I have a very special guest, our student ambassador, Amy, who goes by Amy or Emily. Which one are you going by for the chat today, Amy?
Amy, we can do Amy.
Okay. So, Amy, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a senior at Hilton High School, and I'm also a student ambassador for the College Admissions Support Group led by Miss Jen.
Yeah. And I have Gil, who I met last year from the University of Richmond, and Michael. And we also have another person joining potentially later. But, Gil, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gil Villanueva, Dean of Admission here at the University of Richmond, and it's just delightful to be with you all tonight. And we look forward to having a really nice dialogue with all of you. And we certainly hope many of you will decide to think about Richmond down the road.
Yeah. And Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Pina, and I'm Director of Admission for the University of Richmond. And I'm super excited to be here with all of you and to share a lot about what are some great things that we have here for you. And I also hope that you will be thinking about University of Richmond.
Well, I always say hope is not a plan. I always say hope is not a plan. So I plan to ensure that we get some great applicants for University of Richmond, including our own student ambassador, Amy here. She applied this year. I'm going to start with this one question. And this is actually one of my favorite questions to ask. Gil and Michael, what's one thing that you don't feel like is in the brochures or in your material about University of Richmond that you only know once you kind of get on campus and experience it?
Well, okay. What a great question. Who do you want to go? You want me to go ahead, or would you like to do Michael?
I'm gonna go first because I'm gonna take a little bit of a different tack.
Okay.
I'm also a parent, and I have 4 daughters, and I visited before working here, and there is something about when you engage a student on this campus, and in particular, my daughter was concerned about just kind of being on campus. What's it like being on campus?
Mm-hmm.
The student was not just friendly, but really opened up a world of the campus, showing what the art facilities look like, talking about her experience coming from a little bit further away, and how it felt like family. And then also being able to be honest about, like, yeah, it's hard to go to college sometimes. You have to adapt to a whole new environment, and it's very different than being at home. And I have all of this support around me. I'm able to do the things that I need to do. So I think that you might not see that when you're looking at just kind of the information session, which will tell you about what the value is and what you can do on campus. You're going to hear about that a lot. But when you talk to a real human being that's experiencing that, it's something that we can't duplicate, we can't replicate, except when you meet our students.
So the students, yeah, and I would say as somebody who went to orientation, there's just a warm feeling about the campus, like, and it's kind of hard to like put it in a bottle, but yeah, and then the views, the views are stunning. Gil, what's one thing that you learned about University of Richmond that wasn't in the brochure, or you never knew about University of Richmond?
Well, I'm going to take you all back 13 years.
Okay.
when I was approached by a search firm to apply for this position. And like all of us, we're going to do a lot of good research, and we want to we want to understand what the mission is, what the school is about, what the focus is. And I can just assure you that everything is for and about students and faculty. Mm-hmm. The main enterprise will be undergraduate education. And here's the big thing that I learned during my research. Number one, not many schools in our country can afford their ambitions.
I'm a Baptist, I'm sorry.
because and I know this sounds like I'm totally bragging right now. The endowment for the school as it stands is $3.3 billion. $3.3 billion for just about 3,200 students. this makes the university one of the wealthiest schools per capita, per student in our
Mhm.
great nation. It
Mhm.
means that it allows us to really surround faculty and students with all of the resources and capital that they need so that
Mhm.
they can do their really good work.
Mhm.
Means that we're able to be one of the few schools in the United States that to be both need blind in admission
Mhm.
and meets 100% of demonstrated need. It means that we're able to take all that financial aid and put you as a student in a position to study abroad because all
Mhm.
financial aid, right, travels with you. It's all portable, whereas that might not always be the case at some institutions. It also means that this university can afford to
Mhm.
fund students up to $5,000 to do their own research or
I
to
didn't know that.
pursue an unpaid or underpaid internship.
Mhm.
And last but not least, it means that we're able to ultimately help students move on from Richmond. If you
Mm.
think about the outcomes, which is really important, everyone, what students are doing after graduation, of course, it's important to understand their lived experiences, but to understand that at Richmond, you would be the exception within 6 months if you're not employed or in graduate school,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
the vast majority of students are employed doing wonderful things or in their professional or continuing or graduate school. So we think there's a lot of good things going on here,
Mhm.
and we certainly hope you all continue to want to learn about us.
The thing that is interesting to me is like there are a lot of colleges that have very large endowments, right? And for those of you kind of following along who are new to the college search process, need blind means that they're not going to review your application. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, with trying to figure out, can we afford this student, whatever, or can the student afford us? And need 100% need met, which I always say terms and conditions, but I don't believe that's true with y'all, is that whatever your expected family contribution is, or whatever you're expected to pay, they're going to meet whatever exceeds that cost. But the thing that's interesting to me as somebody who works with a lot of colleges and sees a lot of colleges with very large endowments is I don't feel like this university hoards the endowment or hoards the resource or keeps the money. It's like we have money, but it's not for you. It's not for the tuition. It's not for the fees. It's not whatever. The one thing that I was surprised about, I just remember we got the offer last year from University of Richmond. My student qualified. She paid zero. And I said, and I'm sorry, y'all, I said this. I was like, girl, hoard, you better get a job and hoard that money because I was like, there's no way. There's no way that books are going to be covered. There's no way that, your expense, every expense on campus is going to be covered. There's going to be basketball games that you want to go to. There's going to be housing deposits that they haven't told you about. There's going to be all of these things. And when we talked to her, Amy, do you remember what she said when we talked to her?
She literally was like,
I was like, what's the last thing that you paid for? And she's like,
nothing.
she thought maybe if she had a car, maybe she would have to pay for that. And she was like, maybe. And she was like, well, the spider shop, I would have to pay for things at the spider shop, but they've given me stuff as well. Why was it important for y'all to like even laundry? I mean, I think y'all, you and I and everybody here, we were during the quarter laundry era. I don't know if everybody's doing quarters still, but you had to bring your own quarters, and then if the clothes weren't dry, oh well, because you're not paying for another load. Why was it important for y'all when you were constructing your campus and your vision for where students should be? Why was it important to take care of some of these fees that came up?
You want me to give a shot at this, Gil?
I'll tell you what. You go ahead, and I'll certainly I'll
Okay.
pitch in whatever I can. How's that?
Okay. So when you think about going to a school and you come to this beautiful campus, we have people coming from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, and all sorts of different things coming on. And they're coming to the University of Richmond to be a spider. They're coming to join this kind of web, this kind of community. And what is a community if everybody can't benefit from the same things that happen? It's not that kind. It's not the kind of community where we're going to get the best out of the students. we're able, because we're knee blind and because we're able to really touch the world, we're able to invite and attract the students that want to be a part of it. When they get here, we don't want them thinking like, oh, I can't go and cheer at the basketball game because I don't have $5 more because my family did all this. Oh, I need to maybe borrow this book for this something that I'm really interested in studying. We want them to have that. When they go abroad, we want students to not only have their financial aid transfer abroad, but some students, when they study abroad, they might travel, or they might do something that's a culturally immersive experience that's beyond the classroom. We want every University of Richmond student to have that. So to that end, in addition to your financial aid, you get an additional $1,500 to invest in what you think would be a culturally immersive experience. And I think that's so important when you're thinking about outcomes and how we can have consistency with it being the unicorns that aren't in graduate school or working 6 months out, is that you have to have that consistency of experience and not these little tiny roadblocks, because a bunch of little tiny roadblocks along the way slow you down. And we don't want our students, we want them to launch. We don't want them to slow down. So I think that's part of the philosophy. Everybody needs to have the total Richmond experience. You don't choose between scooping ice cream, which is really great because you get free ice cream, or a coffee shop or whatever, and that research internship that's going to lead you to just something that you hadn't discovered about yourself. You choose the things that you're passionate about, and the university supports you, because when you live that life, and when you find that life of purpose, and when you live kind of what our mission is going forward, you become happy alumni, happy spikers, if you will, and you come back and you bring more of them. I think that to me is part of that value proposition. Gil?
Well, you nailed all the really good points, and I really appreciate that. But the only thing I will add, it's just ultimately a commitment by the university, right? It is something that the university wishes to do, and to all the things that Michael pointed out. We don't believe in just diversity, but we also believe in equity and inclusion, right? And diversity is one thing, but if you think about the cost of equity and inclusion, now my point earlier about being able to afford ambitions is starting to come together, because, as you might imagine, when we want, to Michael's point, all spiders to be able to benefit from everything that we offer, well, there's a cost attached to that. And I'll give you one quick example. So for us, we believe, for instance, that all students should be able to do research here. And by and large, everyone's been able to do it, but also to do internships. And I referenced earlier the fact that our university not only will afford you the opportunity to work with faculty, because we have very, very few grad students. It's going to be you, Amy, if it all works out and you come here, your faculty are going to seek you out, and you're in a position to seek faculty to do research with them. But on top of this, we have the Richmond Guarantee, which I talked about earlier, where you can have up to $5,000 to do something else, either an internship, or let's say an underpaid internship, or whatever else that you wish to do research-wise. So for us on our end, it's just ultimately a commitment by the university.
And Amy, you're hearing this, you're absorbing this. What's standing out to you as a student, and what questions do you have about, because I know you applied. First of all, what attracted you to apply to University of Richmond? And what are you, when you're hearing this, what stands out to you?
When applying to the University of Richmond, I think it was the community base that y'all had that made me attract to it, and also like the leadership that you have at the school that made me attract to it. I didn't know about the research and internship and how you get $5,000 for your research, and I really want to be involved in research, so that's really interesting. And yeah, that's something that I've always wanted to do. So that will help a lot of students. I know it would help me get into it.
Yeah, and first and foremost, I don't even think I made, at my nonprofit legal internship, I think I made $5,000 for the summer as a second year attorney, or second year law student. So that's really, and I just remember even then it was like the checks were kind of coming slowly, so I had to like pace myself. And we all know that ramen life where you're just eating ramen a couple days and then you get the check. But I think what's interesting to me about the opportunities that you guys have, one of the things that I observe as somebody who speaks to our students as they're applying, but then also speaks to them throughout the year as they start getting ready for the summer, getting ready for their first year internship after their first year of college, is I noticed that a lot of my students would just send me questions and be like, how do I do this? And how do I get this job? Or how do I, find a job or find an opportunity? Or how do I, I need to do this long essay and things like that. And recently we talked to Judith, and she acted like it was so normal. Remember this, Amy? She was just like, oh, yeah, they just, my professor sat me down and asked me what I was interested in and what I would like to do this summer. And she's in a learning community and she sees that professor all the time. And I would love for you guys to talk about that. And she said, and so then we just kind of came together, came up with some research that I could work on. And that's what I'm doing this summer. And I was like, what happened to the like what happened to all the hurdles that I'm used to with getting a job? And to me, it's astounding as somebody who probably waited the 4th year to get into research and had to fight for those opportunities that she's just offered that coming through the door. Can y'all talk about some of the learning communities and also the undergraduate research and why that is a commitment for you guys and how you nurture that, especially in the context, because you guys have such small classes as well. In that context, like how do you guys nurture? How do you do it? How do you nurture this?
Michael, I'll just take the lead on this one. So we're fortunate to have 5 schools, 3 of which are undergraduate. And it means then that we're able to have more majors and minors and concentrations than your typical National Liberal Arts College. And in fact, we have over 100 majors and minors at the University of Richmond. So if you think about just one school, the School of Arts and Sciences, where everyone begins their time here at the university. And when we admit students, we are not concerned about the majors that they're thinking about or minors or all the things academically, because we know that many of them will end up changing their minds, and we're okay with that. Mm-hmm. So this means that they're placed in a position to really discover, to really understand themselves and the world around us, and to take advantage of the curriculum that we have. And of course, like a lot of schools, you have 2 years to formally declare. Now, having said that, faculty here, and to the point that Judith told you about, are really interested in being with students, not just doing research, but also teaching them. And when they do research, involving students in their research. So already that's one piece right there. Mm-hmm. School of Arts and Sciences, if you all have time, and if you have time, in the search box, type in symposium, and it will lead you to the School of Arts and Sciences Symposium. Every year, they actually sponsor arts and sciences students to do research, fully funded, right? And it's all on display each spring, usually in April, for students and faculty and staff to actually take in and learn more about. That's one piece, right? Above and beyond what faculty will do to involve you in their research. And then again, there's that thing about the Richmond Guarantee, which I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. So now you have kind of 3 things already, right? Mm-hmm. And then what if you become a Bonner Scholar at the University of Richmond? We have one of the largest Bonner Centers in the United States. And the Bonner Centers really is all about putting young people in a position to make more impact in society. Mm. You get a stipend during the school year. And in the summertime, right, if you end up being a Bonner Scholar and you're going to do research, that's going to be funded as well, whereby understand and study how how a certain organization, how a certain aspect of life here in the United States might be bettered, might be improved. So it's actually kind of interesting. I'll give you a quick example. We had a young woman who wanted to study who really benefits from organic farming one summer, right? Well, through her work, she was looking at farms and all these organic farms and supermarkets over the summer. Well, guess what? If you buy directly from the growers, then you're benefiting them, of course. But if you're buying from a supermarket or a store, well, it's not quite benefiting them right away, right? So we had another young woman who wanted to study the black lung effect that happens in a lot of coal mining communities. And she was proposing ideas in how to improve upon the condition of miners working in those areas. So that just gives you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to add, Michael?
Just that one research project I read about, University of Virginia was teaching rats how to drive.
I don't want that. Shut that down. But one of the things that I noticed is I kind of felt like it was very graduate, and I know it's undergraduate, but as somebody who went to law school, like it felt very graduate, the experience that Judith is currently having at University of Richmond. The class sizes and the structure of University of Richmond, what was the intentionality behind that? And can you kind of discuss like why the creating more nurturing smaller class sizes was important to the university? And I know some people are always concerned that there's terms and condition where it's like, the big classes at the third and fourth year, you'll have those small classes, but the first year you're going to be in large lecture halls. Why is it important for you all to get the students into small classes early?
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think that when you talk about that focus on students and what our professors want to do, they want to teach, and they want to teach the students and meet them where they are. And you can't really do that in classes where you have hundreds of students. And that's why you're going to find that 99% of our classes are under 50 students, and we have 0% that are over 50. Okay, so you're going to find that in that particular environment, also the students' collaboration, their ability to collaborate on projects is something that they can start early on. And we know from our studies that collaborative ability and that collaborative problem solving is one that enhances the learning for everybody. I think that our teachers are in tune with our institution's mission, with helping the undergraduates find what their life of purpose will be, what their impact on society is going to be. And often when a student comes in, where the majority of them will come in undecided, they're going to discover something about themselves or something that they're interested in by being able to have that relationship and that one-on-one early on with their professors. That to me, I think is something that when you come into the institution, regardless of the size of your high school, of where you came into, you want to have kind of that grounding effect as a part of the community. The nice thing about the size of the University of Richmond is that you can have that grounding effect and then still have an atmosphere of community with lots of variety and lots of diversity as well. What would you add, Gil?
Well, again, students, with an 8-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio and an average class size of 15,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want to go to Richmond if you're not the kind of student who wants to be prepared for class.
That's right. You can't hide, right, Gil?
Where are you going to hide? Where are you going to go?
Right.
And you're going to be happily, I think, impressed to hear that faculty, part of your grade here, faculty will assign grades to class participation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not participating, then you're not going to earn, the kind of grade that you should be earning. So it puts you in a position where, oh my gosh, I want to do my work, right? I want to be around students who want to do their work. And together with faculty, you're able to really have these really robust discussions because you're prepared, faculty's prepared, and you're going to do good work together.
Yeah. Amy, you can't hide. Did you hear that?
Camp.
I think in our schools, I don't even think we get down to 15. There's no way. In Prince William County, there's no way it's 15. No.
I can tell you there are no lecture halls here. My daughter does not attend Richmond. She attends a really big school. And one of her classes, an introductory class for her, I'm not joking, is 400 students large.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And for me, I mean, I remember 300 classes. I mean, they told us like sit in the front, make sure you get to know your professor. And I did all of those things. I luckily had an honors college, but not having to do those things and kind of focus on building the relationship and connection is very, to me, important. Now, the one thing that I hear is in Northern Virginia is we have a very, rich on paper. Mortgages are high, costs are high here, they're getting higher. And so when a lot of people will look at the price tag of a private and just say, not going private, not only public colleges, I can't afford this. And I have people who will say to me, I've taken Richmond off the list because it's too expensive. Why should people, and then they'll say, and those scholarships never materialize, the need never materializes. Why should people keep Richmond on the list, even if they see the sticker price and say that's not within our budget?
So I can tell you one big piece of advice. It's really important for families and students to understand that there are net price calculators out there. Every college and university in the United States must have one. Usually you'll find it in the financial aid website of all the schools. And, if you have an hour, basically take all of your financial information, including tax information, and input, right? Answer all the questions as accurately as you can. And then these net price calculators will give you what we call an estimate in terms of what you as a family, right, might be in a position to pay towards the cost of attending that school, right? And some of the net price calculators, by the way, are not as long. Some of them, it's called My Intuition, for instance, will have maybe 7 questions. The other one through the College Board might be a little bit more, but it's so worth it, everyone, for you to all to look into it. But that said, just knowing the policies from school to school is important. As Jen mentioned, Richmond is one of the few schools that is both need blind and meets 100% of demonstrated need. So our budget, and this is really cool to throw out there, is well over $81 million for financial aid, right, for our students. And that's a lot.
I'm sorry, it took me a second because
it means that, it means that we're, again, if you need $1, you get $1 from the University of Richmond. Michael?
The only thing that I'd add is that I think of that as what we call the quintessential middle class family. What you're talking about there, and the way that we look at our financial aid calculations, we take into account more of the new methods of looking at it. And the best example I can give you is that I'm a family of 6. I've got 4 daughters. Okay, I do not have a landline where everybody calls with a cord attached to it. It's 6 cell phones. Well, our financial aid process is going to take into account that might be the reality for you there. We don't drive one car. There are 2 cars that are there because there are 2 people that are working. And so it's going to take into account those particular things that are real. So when you look at colleges in general, you should do that net price calculator. When you look at Richmond, you have to do your homework because there's also the opportunity for those students to be considered for merit scholarships. There's opportunities once they get to campus. There are other opportunities through different centers and engagement for them to get different types of scholarships. I highly doubt that somebody would not choose Richmond if they qualified for aid just because of the money. I think that would be the unicorn because we make sure that people have that access based on their need and then also on their merit.
Can we also talk about, we in Northern Virginia has a very, a vast variety of things. So one of the things that really resonated with me is some of our families are, unfortunately, they've lost their job over COVID. They have no income right now. They're under $60,000. They're under, $50,000. Can we talk about the no terms, no conditions, no fees promises that you guys make and how that benefits students, but also, and I I said this before we got on. I feel like University of Richmond is one of those good all-inclusive resorts where everything is actually covered and you don't find out like, oh, there's an excursion that is going to cost you money. Oh, you have to pay for the shuttle here. How taking away some of the other fees that you would pay on campus benefits the whole university. Gil, I saw you kind of jump up at that, so I'll give it to you first.
Well, Michael's a parent of college students. I'm a parent of college students. And, with my son, for instance, every year we have to pay a $700 computer fee. And we're like, the boy doesn't even go to that computer center. $700 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. So, to the point that you just that you made, we really pride ourselves in not nickel and diming families, right? So you mentioned, obviously, there are no lab fees, there's no orientation fees, there's no laundry fees, there are no fees for basically going to the gym, there's no parking fees here.
Judith didn't know that. Well,
let me retract that one.
You can get a ticket.
That's right. So the thing that we really are proud of is the idea that again we want everyone to enjoy the university. That's faculty, staff, students, and alumni. And then the other thing that I do want to point out is you mentioned special programs we have for Virginians.
Mm-hmm.
So for Virginians, anyone whose family income, and I should retract that, it's parent or guardian income, not students now, right? So that income, if it's 60,000 or less, and they have financial need, they get the equivalent of a financial aid award to the cost of the entire cost of attendance here. In other words, right, they're not going to pay much, if any at all, to attend the University of Richmond. Mm-hmm. So if it's $60,000 or less, then again, they're going to get that full cost of attendance available to them.
Yeah, and Gil, I think that's an important distinction that you have to make. That cost of attendance is not just tuition; it's the whole cost of attendance. So that's something that's really important. And then you also mentioned that some families had circumstances that change. They may have lost a job, or they may lose income and something of that sort. We're in a position where once you're a Spider, we're going to be able to respond to those things that happen in financial aid, because that's something that we're committed to. We meet 100% of demonstrated need. And so that's part of a luxury that we have of being able to respond to our students' needs and our families' needs. That was particularly, evident when we got hit with a global pandemic and students had needs that went beyond what we thought. We were able to respond to those things. And it's something that we're able to do on a large scale or on that individual scale as well.
And I also would say proactively respond, because go ahead.
Just to make sure, for cost of attendance, everyone, Michael talked about tuition, room and board.
Yeah.
So, but please know it doesn't include books, supplies, right, and pizza money.
Right.
So of course that's something that families and students are in a position to afford, particularly because we do believe students should have some kind of work, right, prior to arrival on campus. Work is a good thing. I make my own children work.
Yeah.
So, Michael, right?
I try.
Earn some.
He's working at the mall right now.
Yeah.
Earn money for your fun too.
Yeah. But I think one of the other things that I would say is proactively, I think one of the good things that I've seen is that you guys are more proactive about asking students, hey, we know that situations have changed. Here's how, if the situation has changed, you can get the information, or even having that connection with the professor and a student saying, my situation has changed, and the professors knowing about the commitments has made a huge difference in some of the students that I've met from your campus. But the other thing I would say is, I actually just lost my train of thought, but the other thing I would say is that a lot of the students that I know are able to afford some of the fees, but if you're on campus, I can't think of anything that's not covered in your like if you're on campus and you're eating on campus and you bought your meal plan and you've done everything, I can't think of anything that you would be paying for. Games are covered, library fees, computer lab, everything's kind of covered. So it is possible, let's say if your family is financially hit and they don't have that extra capital to give you some spending money, it is possible to exist on campus. Amy, as a student who was forced to get a job this year, and is saving money for expenses, what are some of your thoughts as this is coming up?
It's a lot of relief because I know if I had to work in college, I feel like I would like be so stressed on working and not have the time to be able to like do well in my studies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a lot of relief to feel that the university is also finding a way to help students in order for them to focus on their studies, and rather than having to work and having to put a lot of burden on themselves to like pay for their tuition and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I also noticed is my student like took a long time to get a job because everything was covered. But when she did get a job, she got a job on campus pretty easy. There was like a job fair that she went to. You guys were very proactive about that. And she said that like her boss, she's like, she used to work at some fast food restaurant. Her boss at her job on campus is like, oh, you have a test tomorrow. Why don't you come in, Wednesday, Thursday instead, like very flexible. So it kind of seems like you guys have like built a culture where people are aware of that the students should come first. Is that something you would say, like it's very student driven and student first on campus?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is students first all the time, and also there's teaching moments in that, so that students, through their relationships with the people that they work with, they learn to communicate, and so they anticipate a lot of these things, and then things happen, and so people that have these particular jobs can be responsive to them. So I think it's a part of the culture. It's not a free for all. Oh, I'm not going to come in today. It's more they're learning some skills that are going to be really valuable when they hit the workforce or when they're interviewing. And I think that's an important part of it.
Yeah. And as far as the amount of time spent on jobs, Amy, just so you know, it usually just at most maybe anywhere from 10 to 10 hours, maybe 12 hours at most. Not many of our students are going to be doing more work than that. And if anything, actually, it becomes a meaningful activity for many of our students because it teaches them certain skills that they can actually take on and build upon for a resume, let's say for an internship or a job down the road. So it's not something that students must have, but it is kind of interesting here at Richmond. A good number of our students actually look for jobs just to support, some of their spending. So and they want to go to a concert, they want to do something in town because the city of Richmond is right here. It's literally 6 miles away. The buses, talk about being inclusive, are and the shuttles are paid for. You don't have to have a car on campus. But once you set foot on campus, if you want to go ahead and watch a movie off campus, well, of course that's going to cost money. So that's how some of our students are able to afford these expenses, is by doing some work on campus. And as a plug, here in the Office of Admission, we employ tour guides, we pay our tour guides and interns here at the university.
Yeah.
And they love it.
Hey, get paid for giving a tour. Come on.
Yeah.
Orientation leaders as well. I mean, your orientation leaders, the thing I loved about orientation is I felt like everybody was represented. And, I think Richmond has its own history, and a lot of students of color, particularly Black students, have like a lot of reservations. But even seeing in orientation students who look like you and can talk to the experience. Can you talk about that? Because this came up as a question. What is the culture like at University of Richmond, and how are you all combating some of the things that we all are struggling with in terms of like inclusivity and diversity and anti-Blackness and anti-Asianness? How are you guys combating the changing culture of Richmond as it evolves to serve a new set of, well, not new, but a broader set of students?
Well, I think about coming to Richmond before I was director here, and coming and seeing the university and the city over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And being able to see some real change. I mean, you can use the most obvious of Monument Avenue. What I love about the University of Richmond, as it goes through these changes and that particular thing, is that it's a place where students are a part of those hard conversations. And it's not your job to educate people about things, but it is just kind of the responsibility of all of us collectively to have those conversations, to learn from one another, and to make change where we need to and adapt to that. There is no utopia, just like there is no perfect student. And if you find it, let us know, because
He's perfect. Amy is a perfect student.
You want to find a place where you can have that sense of belonging, where your opinion matters, and where your thought process matters, and where you can evolve and learn from one another. And I think that's something that Richmond really works on and is able to do well. And that is why, even through turmoil of things that are happening in Richmond and things that have happened on our campus, it's a place where our students and our Black students can find a sense of belonging and create more of that as they go forward. So that's my thinking about it, and that's what I talk about. Not utopia, but a place where you belong, and we're going to make sure that happens.
Gil, I know you're passionate about this, so I'm going to let you go ahead.
We tell young people and families and caregivers that, to Michael's point, there are no perfect schools out there, but being at a place where you have a voice, I think, is important, something to account for. And also the idea that, and I think this is a really critical point, is the idea that people are willing to have a discussion. People are willing to talk things out. I think that's critical, because the minute we don't have good communication, then we're really set up for failure, right? Like all things in life, if we're not communicating, we're really not going to do very well. And at this institution, we tell young people all the time that if you are not interested in representing yourself in your community, representing your sort of, your values, right? You're not interested in being a change agent for good, then Richmond might not be a good place for you, because what's happening out in the world is also happening here. So again, there's no bubble out there. The key now is to find a place where you feel comfortable, supported, and you're going to have a say.
And I know student advocacy is becoming more and more important on your campus. And one of the things that I saw recently, which I have to post this picture on our Instagram, just so it's a picture from the Black Excellence Ball that they recently had.
We were there.
Yes.
Awesome.
I was so jealous. We never had that.
It was our prom. Again,
Did you guys go? Was the food good? That's what my number one question.
Hey, the food was good, and people looked amazing, and we were dancing across generations. So
Okay.
Michael had a tuxedo, just so you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
And we had our former president, Dr. Ronald Crutcher,
Yeah.
his wife, Dr. Betty Neal Crutcher, out on the floor. Our current president was there. Our provost was out dancing.
Yeah.
The cabinet was out there. But to Michael's point, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, we decided to kind of just move on a little bit now and have the younger generation over the entire place. But we were out there.
I got a key question. Was there an electric slide?
Cupid Shuffle.
Okay.
We did
And the second question is, did they play before I let you go?
They did not play that.
It's starting to fade out. We're losing our history, people. We're losing our history. And not the Beyonce version. I love Beyonce, but it's really important.
I'm so old. I was waiting for the hustle. It never happened.
Okay. For me, I always wait for Motown, and I feel like we're losing it. But the TikTok generation is bringing it back. One thing I just remembered the thing that I was about to say. One thing I noticed about privates versus public is like if there's a financial aid appeal, there's a lot of documentation required for public, and it takes a long time for you to get anywhere or to get a straight answer. And what I found is y'all's process is so quick because I don't know if it's like the funding or whatever, but one thing I did notice I wanted to highlight is I think a lot of people kind of put college in a box and they say no publics or no privates or no, out of states and things like that. What's the advantage of having a private school and an equity driven environment?
Well, I'm just going to jump ahead on that one, Michael. So for us on our end, if you're offered admission at the University of Richmond, understand that you competed against some of the top students in the United States and abroad. And if we offer you admission, you were hand selected, right, to be a member of the class. In other words, we want you. We want you here. But we also recognize that you have many, many options. And we know, for instance, Amy, how many schools can you attend, Amy?
I applied to 7.
How many can you attend?
1.
There you go. The competition is steep. We totally get it. But streamlining the process for financial aid really helps, right? And I think you're going to find that at a lot of schools that's keen in making sure that we're very student-centered and focused in the things that we do. Mm-hmm. So the one thing I do want to point out that, families are sometimes, right, it could be pretty complex, right? Mm-hmm. So there will be moments where there's a situation, for instance, there's a non-custodial parent involved. Yeah. It's one of those things that it's important for families, right, to make sure that some of the things that are required for whatever situation. What we try to do here in the University of Richmond is lay it out. So mm-hmm. If you have a non-custodial parent, then there's this one form, for instance, that has to be completed, right? Mm-hmm. But we let you know what you need to do to complete your financial aid. And if you do that, you hit the application, you complete the forms by the deadline, within the day or a week of being offered admission, mm-hmm. you get a financial aid award. Yeah. Sometimes it's together. Yeah. So it depends on families and caregivers meeting those deadlines. Mm-hmm.
Michael, do you have anything to add on that?
I think it's just a compliment to the way that our financial aid staff makes itself accessible mm-hmm. By laying it out, but also being able to explain it. Mm-hmm. We're even able to do it in multiple languages for families. And so it's important that parents and students understand what their responsibilities are. And then so when they do their job, we're definitely going to do ours, because like Gil said, when we admit you, we've worked hard to select you, and we want you here because it makes our lives better too.
Amy, do you have all of your stuff in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm constantly, Amy and I, this year we developed the word or the phrase stress manager. So I'd be like, it's not time to stress, or like, it's just constantly running through and making sure like, as every box checked and things like that. Okay, so we're going to finish up, and we're running not out of time, but I could talk to y'all all day and I won't. But what's one thing that y'all want us to know about University of Richmond, or in general about the campus, that maybe I haven't been able to touch on? Or is there something that you're passionate about that you want to just make sure that we're aware of and students are aware of?
You want to go, Michael?
I believe that seeing is believing. So if you have the opportunity to make the trip down to see us, come and see us, and let me know you're coming, because I want to say hello to you. That's the way that we do it. It's a very special place to spend 4 years or 3.5 years or 3 years if you study abroad, to have your education. It's a special place to come back to again and again. And the love for the students permeates the faculty, the staff, the students, and all the people that are looking at your applications and meeting your families.
Okay.
Well, speaking of that, just so you know, we do quite a bit to get to know our applicants, and we know Amy, you're the captain of the volleyball team, and French is spoken at home, right? We know you're the vice president of the student council, so we know all of this stuff, and
I didn't even know she was vice president of student council.
we're going to be discussing your application in committee, so it's going to be a lot of fun for us to do that because we will get to know you, and we'll always ask the question, will Amy uphold the honor code? Will you be a good roommate? It's not just about you as a student, but it's you as a person, right? Because if you end up here, you're going to be not just a member of this community, but you're going to be a permanent member. I know it's really melodramatic, but wherever you go in terms of college, you're always going to be a permanent constituent of that.
That's true. That's so true.
My last point. Why not go to a school that's continuing to ascend? It's continuing to build, continuing to gain stature, right? It's kind of nice to be part of that kind of wave where this school is not only going to help me grow, meet my needs while I'm here, but after graduation, it's going to be there for me.
Amy, I know it triggered because I remember that we talked about this before. You have one question about test optional.
Yes, I wanted to know if applying test optional, how does it affect our application when you review it?
Michael, you have all this. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy. If you apply test optional, your testing doesn't matter. What we want you to do is we want you to look at what are the reasons why you should be admitted to the University of Richmond. What is it that you're bringing to the table that's strong? And if it's not required, it's because we don't need it unless it's something that's going to help us see you better. Test optional is test optional. And it shouldn't be a second thought about it if it's not something that you think puts your best foot forward.
Go ahead, Gil.
There, though, very important. You have Miss Jen, the tutor students, right? Understand the profile of the schools you're applying to. The University of Richmond has a profile, and we're very transparent. We'll let you know what the averages are, right? If you decide you want to turn in your test score, before you do that, students, you want to look at the school's profile, because if your score is right within that profile or above it, great. But if your score is below that, you might not want to do that, right? Just because it's a competitive process. And I am so delighted that you have superior counseling from Miss Jen. Keep an eye on those things for you, okay?
And I think one thing, you said this, I think a lot of students feel like if my grades are a little bit lower, then I should only apply with my test score if it's at the highest range. If it's in range, it's competitive. But I think the best thing that one of our friends, Sean, said is just consider and Amy knows exactly what I'm about to say, because once we heard this, we're like, consider if it's a good data point for you. Does it represent you well? Does it represent your academic capabilities well? If it's not a good data point and you feel so nervous about it, consider this, and this is a revolutionary thought. Why not call the admissions office and discuss it with them? Tell them your reservations, tell them your hesitations, and talk to somebody who is qualified rather than go on the internet, go on Reddit. No shade to Reddit. I don't want to be dragged on Reddit. Go on Reddit, go on TikTok, go on Twitter. Talk to the admissions officers, because they can talk to you about your reservations and the next steps that you could be taking. Even talk early. If you want to go to Richmond, I think a lot of people should want to go to Richmond, and you're a sophomore or you're a freshman and you're watching this, talk to them now to say, what kind of things could I be doing to make myself not more competitive, but what are the kind of things that you're looking for? This is the kind of thing I'm drawn towards. Do you think it's a good fit, and things like that? Y'all, I always say y'all, even though it's Richmond, so you guys are used to that. Y'all, we had such a good time. Amy, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm just excited. I love everything that you guys said. I think the inclusivity of your students and the staff and the admissions and everything that you guys are trying to do for the students is just amazing. So,
and I love and I'm jealous of no fees on campus, because the amount of mistakes I made, like paying for just random things on campus I had no business paying for, like, and then finding out later, like my account was overdrawn. I think having a campus that has a lot of the fees built in saves you so, like the amount of money that I would have saved that I could have been putting towards a graduate degree is incredible. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Any last thoughts before we log off? I'm going to log off and we'll still be here to say goodbye to you. But any last thoughts for any parents or caretakers or students watching?
Oh my gosh, parents, remember when our young people started playing organized whatever, including sports, right? And then at some point we're starting to realize, oh my gosh, it's not, at some point it's not going to be about me, it's going to be about them. Well, college, the search process, the all the things that they're doing to put themselves in a position for college is going to be about them. That means then our job is to support. We're going to be the best cheerleaders we can be, right? So I want us to understand that colleges and universities are really interested in hearing from young people, right? So when you visit our schools, I think we want you on campus, of course, but have your student take the lead in asking questions and all that good stuff, because we pay attention to that.
Okay.
And I think the good news, and I leave it with this for the parents. All of our kids' lives, we've pretty much done our best to know what's best for them, and our kids appreciate us for that, even if they don't always say so. They appreciate us for this. In this college process, this might be for many of them the first time in their life where they absolutely, unequivocally know what's best for them a split second before you. The trick for you, Karen, is to be quiet long enough for them to realize it. And then you guys will be in that partnership the way that you have through all these other monumental changes that you've witnessed with them and help them navigate. So that's my piece.
And how do people get in touch with y'all?
Call, email.
Okay. I'll put the call and the email there. So I'm going to log off and we'll say goodbye after that. But thank you guys for joining us, Amy. Yes. Thank you for coming, Gil, Michael. Thank you. Your enthusiasm for the school is like contagious. It's just so contagious. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.